Thanks for joining us this week on Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. Join your hosts Chris Marriott and Paul Schreiner each week as they talk email marketing, life, purpose, faith, but mainly email marketing. If you're looking for some normalcy in these crazy times, you've come to the right place.
Welcome back to Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. My name is Paul Schreiner, one of the co-founders at Audience Point, one of our sponsors. With me is my esteemed colleague and friend, Chris Marriott.
Chris Marriott, the founder of Email Connect.
And we'll talk
one of our other
that.
sponsors.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about them in a sec too.
Yep.
We have a great guest.
Yes, we do. Today, Paul, for you and our audience's listening and viewing pleasure, we have Skip Gilbert, who is the CEO of USA Youth Soccer. And we look forward to have a lively conversation with him around how pandemics have affected youth sports in general. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say on that. So we're looking forward to that.
And huge get. Largest, I think, if not largest,
the largest
soccer organization in the world. Huge. And so getting to have a conversation with him, I think is pretty fantastic.
No, we're looking forward to that, definitely.
Note from our sponsor that, we're sponsors. This season we're looking at builders, and one of the things that we are doing right now at Audience Point is building. We just hired a new couple of employees on, really excited about that. So we're building our business, and we're building our business through better analytics, better intelligence, better data for marketers. And that's who we are, what we're doing. Our other sponsor is none other than
Email Connect. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we are the leading consultancy in the email space around helping brands connect, hence our name, with the right email vendor. We know more about the vendor landscape than probably anybody, and we bring that knowledge as well as knowledge of market pricing to bear to help our clients not just get the right vendor, but get a great price. So again, delighted to be here today with Paul, delighted to be sponsoring with Audience Point. And with that, I would say, let's get to the program.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back to Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. And we're finally with our guest, Skip Gilbert. Skip is the CEO of USA Youth Soccer, a job that he began just less than 12 months ago in December 2019. Before he joined the USA Youth Soccer, he served in leadership roles with a number of sports organizations. Yeah, we do professional intros, Skip. Over the course of his career, most recently with the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. But he also has worked with the United States Tennis Association, USA Triathlon, USA Swimming, USA Soccer, and he was also chairman of the National Governor's Body Council. I don't know what that is. Maybe he'll tell us. But before we even give him a chance to speak, or Paul to speak, there's more. Because Skip isn't just a suit. He was a two-time NCAA Division I first-team All-American goalkeeper. So he's the second NCAA All-American we've had on this show.
That's true.
We had a guest, Andy, in season 2.
Throwback.
He also played soccer for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. You kids may not be familiar with that name, but that was one of the earliest professional soccer clubs in the U.S. They were part of the NASL. And he was also part of the U.S. Olympic development team. So we've got a CEO, an ex-NCAA Division I All-American. Skip, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris. Paul, appreciate you having me, and hopefully I can live up to those past standards. Wow.
Well, and even before I give Paul again a way in, I do want to also note one very historic thing about today's show. And Paul, I'm not even sure you're aware of this, that this is the first time we've had a guest since we started the program back in April who's actually not at home. Skip, you're actually in the office of your organization. You are not at home. You're in the office, correct?
I am in the office. I'm in our conference room surrounded by lots of trophies that we.
I was going to say, if those trophies were in your house, I'd be.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was-
this is
that
the
was
kitchen.
really
It's
tough.
not the trophy room. We have the trophies all throughout the whole house.
This is the man cave.
At least now we know what use he put that bonus room to.
That's
All right. Well, I'll start off, and then Paul, you can jump in. We always go back and look at some of the, try to do a little bit of research homework. Where Paul and I are professionals, and I was reading the press release announcing your hiring that came out last December, and it said, and I quote, Gilbert currently resides in Connecticut with his wife Jennifer and 3 children. He will join the USYS team in Frisco, Texas, beginning January 10th, 2020. That's not quite how it happened, is it?
Well, actually, I was here on January 9th, and then every weekend up until March, where the quarantines hit, I was traveling back and forth between Frisco and Connecticut.
every weekend.
Went home one weekend expecting to come back on a Sunday night. The world kind of came to a screeching halt, and I stayed put until June. And then my family and I got in our cars and drove down to Texas, buying a house sight unseen in a town we'd never visited.
Oh, wow. Wow. Were you driving between Frisco and Connecticut? Is that what you said?
Early on, I would fly.
Okay.
I was a frequent flyer with Delta. But when we moved down here, the family, we all got in cars and we spent 23 hours, 5 adults and 2 dogs,
Oh,
2
my
cars,
goodness.
driving on down.
It's too bad you didn't know Paul. We hadn't done this program
Right.
yet, because you could have stopped in Chattanooga. That's
Right.
sort of the halfway mark.
We drove right through it. We stopped in a place north of you or northeast of you. Yep, we would have just come on in and taken over.
Right, we would have had you. Well, this is Email Geeks at Home Drinking Coffee. And so typically what we do is we kind of go around the horn, talk about what we're drinking today. And I'll start if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I'm drinking, it's called Four Sigmatic. It's a mushroom-based coffee. It's got adaptogens.
You've become such a forager.
Thought you'd like that. It's I'm exploring the whole world of mushrooms. Is this not the illegal ones? But
Hopefully not on the program.
No. So but asking the question, is there a here, right? Do you notice the difference if you're regularly having the sort of adaptogens in your system? So anyway, that's what I'm drinking today.
Skip, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm not a coffee drinker, never have been. So in the morning, all I ever drink is in my German Bundesliga mug, water. So
There you go.
I can't run on the caffeine rush, but this is all I drink.
Hydration is very important. Well, I'm drinking delicious Cafe Santo Domingo from the Dominican Republic, a very tasty coffee. It reminds me, I've been to the Dominican Republic. I don't know if I've talked about that, but I've been there a couple of years ago. Was probably one of the best vacations I've ever had. And so I drink this to remember the great time I had there, Paul.
That sounds great, Chris. That's really exciting.
You guys need a
I'd love to hear more about that sometime.
Yeah, no, happy to tell you. We need to bring Skip. We can't play in-house here. Skip,
In-house soccer is what we call it.
Yeah, indoor soccer. As our loyal listeners are painfully aware, because I bring it up every week, Paul and his wife were supposed to take an all-expense-paid trip to the Dominican Republic in April, and unfortunately, that did not happen.
No, not so much.
So, one of the casualties of the COVID was a great vacation that Paul was going to have. But
there you go.
Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, let's move on with the program. Let's get back to soccer. One of the things that I noted also in looking at your organization that you now run is that you have 55 state associations as part of U.S. Youth Soccer. Where did you get the extra 5 states from?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
That is, we're not just expanding our boundaries, but there are certain states that have such wide geographic boundaries that we've allocated two. So you've got two state associations in Texas, two
Yep.
state associations in California,
Yep.
two in Pennsylvania, two in New York, and interestingly enough, two in Ohio. That happened a long time ago. I'm not quite sure why Ohio got two, but they did, and that makes 55.
Ohio's a
Okay.
huge market, though. I mean, you've got
It is.
Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus. I mean, there's a lot of big cities there. So I get
Yeah.
it.
And it's a good hotbed for soccer, so they have two.
Well, it's interesting that you get into to Paul's point about Ohio being big in soccer. When you think about youth sports, high school sports, when you think about football, you think about Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas. When you think about baseball, you think about California, maybe Texas. When you think about basketball, you think about Indiana, and some other states. Where is soccer? And maybe as the head of all 55 state associations, this is a question you'd rather not answer. But what states are what to soccer is Texas to football?
That's a great question. I mean, I can put my playing hat on. Years ago, it was New Jersey, which is where I learned most of my soccer, or Missouri. California,
Missouri.
Florida, obviously were hotbeds. Today, we'd like to say soccer is pretty much everywhere. We have a strong youth following in just about every state. So from that perspective, but again, when you look at, if you were to say, give me the top three, you'd probably go where there's a huge geographic population. I mean, Southern California, Northern California, Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey, Missouri, Illinois. So, there's hotbeds all over the place, and we're just kind of riding that wave.
I'm sure Alaska tries hard, but
Alaska is a big state.
Well, Alaska and Hawaii, actually, the two outside, it makes it very, very difficult for them to want to come into our national championships because they absolutely have to get on a very long flight to do so.
Right.
Now, soccer is, I'm going to say this, though I didn't research it, and I should have. It's the fastest growing sport in the country. There's no question in my mind. I don't feel like I even have to look that up. Why do you think that is?
From a team sport, it's a really simple game to learn to understand. You put the kids out there, you throw a ball in the middle and just kind of let them run. There's not a huge cost associated with in terms of equipment. And it is the world's game. So anybody that's coming up whose parents are watching television, watching sports TV, they're going to start to see the Premier League, the Bundesliga. They're going to watch the World Cup. I mean, soccer is a game that connects all communities, all societies. And so that seems to be a really strong draw for many parents, is to get their kids in youth soccer. Again, easy to play. It's simple. Not a lot of cost associated with the equipment behind. So
You need a ball,
Right.
a ball, maybe some shoes, maybe.
some shoes, not always.
No, I played barefoot.
Barefoot soccer is a lot of fun.
So what does the CEO of a youth sports organization do?
It depends on the day. Right now in the COVID, it's trying to help work with all of our state associations who are grappling with return to play directives from each of their state governments. It is trying to map out our collective strategy as to what we're going to be doing for our national championships, our President's Cup, our own national league, all of the different elements. It's working with a lot of other national governing bodies in a multiple of sports to try to emphasize the fact that we all believe in multi-sport play for kids coming up through the age of 12 or 13, where naturally, if you're starting to embrace one sport over another, you're probably going to be selective. We obviously would love for those kids to pick soccer, but again, what we see is there's a lot of great sports out there. So again, between the governance of what we're trying to do to manage all of that and to be able to figure how can we strategically grow the game, how can we spend a lot more time at the grassroots level to get
Right.
kids excited about it, not to leave the sport, but to stay connected with us. Because part of our vision, is really to make lifelong fans of the game.
Right.
By the time they become our age, they're either coaches or they're referees. They're buying MLS, USL, NWSL
Yeah.
jerseys. They're watching soccer on TV. So, again, every given day is a little different.
Well,
Yeah.
I like how you say that. I've coached the Soccers many times for my children. Did I say that right? The Soccers? I saw you wince, and this is the power of Zoom.
He struggles Skip with explaining offsides to them, but other than that, I'm sure he's a great coach.
That's
So,
okay.
but what I love about the sport, and to your point, it's super simple. But I've always thought like soccer or youth sports in general is really about making good human beings, and we use sport to do that, right? We teach lessons around that, and so like I love this big grand vision of like sort of we want to reach everyone, and create lifetime fans of it, because again, it's then perpetuating, right, where we've got generational impact.
No, absolutely. And I think every sport can talk about the characteristical developments for the kids. It's not just the technical awareness on the field, but it's also what does it bring inside of you? And anybody that's working the workforce, that when your HR department is looking at individuals for specific roles, they very well may look, did they play sports?
Right.
Because what sports does is bring a strong dynamic in terms of working with others. Do you play well in the sandbox with others? If you play sport, your chances are you're going to be following the edicts of a coach.
Right.
So therefore, are you used to working with someone who is your superior?
Right.
And so those characteristical development aspects, work really well in soccer. Everybody's moving. As a goalkeeper, being able to see the world unfold in front of me, to be able to not just react, but also start to plan as to how are we going to be, under siege by the opposing forwards? What's the midfielder strength? How are the defenders being able to bring the ball forward? And then how do we counterattack so that realistically I have nothing to do and the other goalkeeper is the one under fire?
It's interesting, and in terms of sorry, it's interesting. As you talk about, part of as you see your mission, and I want to talk about you've said some very interesting things about youth sports in general, and I think you have a good perspective on that because you've worked with so many governing bodies of different sports. But I think one of the things you said that was interesting was, you're not just creating that next Olympic player. U.S. Olympic team player, but you're creating a lifetime of fans for the sport. And I think it's true that, any sport you don't understand the rules is a sport you're not going to watch on television. And, soccer is one of those that, while simple to play, has a lot of arcane rules that I think, again, as more people play it.
Are you proposing a rule change right now, Chris?
No. I think offsides is fine. I get offsides. My boys play soccer. But and I think you see sports like baseball challenging with declining ratings because fewer kids are playing Little League. And again, if you want to talk about arcane rules, baseball is right behind football in terms of the number of rules that you need to understand to actually be able to follow a game. But you also, so again, I totally agree with you that the importance of it's not just creating the next Division I players or the next Olympic players, but it's getting people involved in a sport at all levels and loving that sport. But you've sounded the alarm bell about youth sports in the U.S. In some recent interviews I've seen you do. And again, as a father of 4 boys, or 3 boys and a stepson, and Paul has 3 boys. I mean, he's probably seen the same thing. Again, all heavily involved in youth sports. one of the things you said that I could not agree more with is I think the greatest challenge, this is quote, I think the greatest challenge right now, and this is not just in soccer, that youth sports has become a money machine. Talk a little bit about that, because again, I certainly saw that in my experience.
Right.
Sure. No, and that's a great question. And again, across the spectrum of youth sports, it has become a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. And so in the past, where when I was, again, if I put on my playing hat and I came through ODP and I played for a select team in New Jersey and I ended up playing all over the East Coast and around, I don't remember my parents paying anything for sport. I just showed up and there I was. But today it has become a business, and that train has kind of left the station. And so part of the charge of what I have to do is, how do we balance between the for-profit focus of a lot of different sport entities and the kids that socially, economically are not at that level, but they still, we know, and again, not just in soccer, but we know there are kids that aren't playing in the machine, if you will, that easily could represent, a professional franchise, could represent us in international competition. They could play collegiate soccer. How do we bring them in without disenfranchising those who are legitimately making money doing that? Again, that train has left the station, and that's a balance. And that's something that, we're all trying to work on, and we're all trying to fix, if you will. And it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it, and you touched on it again earlier, one of the results is earlier and earlier kids are being asked by the money-making sports or these, they want you to play baseball all year round. They want you to play basketball all year round, because again, they got to make money in the off season.
And they're hiring professional coaches on, and
exactly. Right. You have people. You have organizations devoted. I'm not talking about the youth organizations, but in some cases it is the youth organizations that, again, if you play 3 sports or 2 sports a year, half the year they're not making money off you. So how do you as an organization? I mean, that's got to be opposing forces even within your organization. We want them to play all year long versus but we want them, at least up until a certain age, you said 12 or 13, explore other sports. I mean, how do you handle that within your own organization?
That's tough, because the minute I say something like that on a podcast like this, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of club directors that are going to be coming back and saying, whoa, we've got to get these 6-year-olds playing 12 months a year, because that's the only way that they're going to be able to represent us in the World Cup competition. And to that degree, I'll put on a different hat. When I was working with U.S. Tennis, and I was the manager of the U.S. Open, and I'm standing out at center court watching an American player warm up before his match, and I was standing next to our chief medical officer. And I said, why is it that the American men are not at the very top of tennis in the professional structure? And he looked at me and said, you tell me. And I watched the kid warm up, and I said, well, technically, backhand, forehand, overhead, absolutely terrific. And he goes, what's he missing? I said, he's not a world-class athlete. And he goes, define that. And I said, watch his movement, his off-ball movement, his change of speed to be able to get around the court is not like a Novak Djokovic or a Rafa Nadal or even a Andy Murray. And he goes, why is that? And I said, because he played tennis his whole life. And he goes, exactly. Those other players, the world-class players, were soccer players, they were track athletes, they played. So when it comes to bursts of speed, change of direction, being able to adapt, they have other muscle memories that they're going to be able to adapt from. And that goes into the full dynamic of trying to separate great athletes, which this kid from the United States absolutely was one of the best tennis players we had, but separates them from true world-class caliber stars. And that's the dynamic. So when it comes to, sure, you could have soccer players at 6, 7, 8 through 12. They're playing 12 months a year. And some of them will ultimately end up playing D1, or they might go on to playing professionally, how many of them burn out?
Yeah.
How many of them get injured? Overuse. And so again, there's a fine line there that we try to manage. And we don't want to discourage, the money machine, but we also want to make sure that those kids are connected to our sport for their entire life. Because again, when you put on the health and wellness and mental health aspect of it, we all know, and the pandemic is a great example. If you're into fitness, if you stay fit, if you stay sharp, you eat the right things, what's the likelihood of a flu or the pandemic? What's the likelihood of it coming and getting you? It still very well might, but health and wellness goes to a long life, lower insurance costs, all the things that society wants out of its population.
Right. Well, I do want to talk about the pandemic because I think any sort of event-based organization got hit hard, through COVID. But I do want to, before we hit there, I'd love to talk a little bit about sort of a little bit more on this whole money machine concept and sort of, we are email marketers. That's a part of our audience. What is the ethics of marketing to minors? But it's not just minors, but your minors, families, all that. Talk a little bit about where your head goes on that, because I think our audience would be interested in hearing. Where are the lines, the boundaries? How do you define those things?
Sure, and again, kids are as marketing savvy as they've ever been. Nike,
Yes, they
Gatorade. They're looking to try to reach those kids. And so from our perspective, when we think about the pure marketing aspect, our first shot is really the parents.
Right.
We want the parents to feel very comfortable with bringing their kids out to get the experience that they need to have a lifelong connection to a sport, to a health and wellness ethic. We want that to happen. We want that to happen through their local clubs, up through the state association, and then hopefully through our national organization. So, our marketing per se is soccer is a great sport.
Right.
We don't really market to kids. Our messaging is
Right.
truly to the parents.
That makes sense. I'm glad you said that. But that being said, you're marketing something that it has a lot of positive impact and value and lifetime value, right? And you're not selling sugary cola that's just going to rot their teeth, right? You're like, no, this is a really fantastic thing for you. So I think there's got to be a tension there. And I was I asked that question to kind of reveal that and understand it a little bit more.
Sure. And again, from an email marketing perspective, until the kids are actual members of ours, we're not going to, we're not sending kids emails and saying, hey, come join soccer.
Well,
we're not there.
Deeper than that, though. I wasn't just getting an email. I'm more meant marketing as a whole, but I think you answered it by saying we really see everyone as a sort of a family unit that we're going after. And that makes
Absolutely. Sense. And we say it all the time. Our USYS family is really what keeps us connected.
So let's talk about COVID a little bit. You, again, being an event-based organization, more so than, email marketing, digital, we can look, I'm on a Zoom, I'm working, right? That's not been the same thing for you and your organization. What does that look like?
Well, event-based, yes. We have our national championships, and then we have our President's Cup and our National League and showcases and all of these things that go on, which we haven't done any of. So literally I started in January, and by the end of February, we had to pull the plug on a number of our events through going into spring. So we have been literally on hold.
Right.
Pretty much I got here. But what that has allowed our team to do, and where I've pushed our team, is to look in the mirror and say, what is soccer going to be like 5 years from now, and build it today.
Right.
So if, we're seeing the signs that parents may not necessarily want to be putting their kids on an airplane every weekend to go play a league match. I mean, it got to the point where this past spring, as the pandemic and the cancellations hit, I'm talking to directors. They're saying, this is silly. We've got a team here in Georgia playing a team from South Carolina. We're literally an hour apart, and both teams have to go to Tampa to play.
Right.
And normally we would have been like, well, that's just the way it is. But now we're going, all right, maybe that's not going to the way it will be.
Right.
And so realistically, given the size of soccer, part of the sell from clubs has, the shiny object that parents are going to kind of glean to is you got to play all over the country. That's how you're going to be seen. The reality is almost in every community, if you can't find 4, 5 teams that you could play in any given season, and then if you don't have any more than that, play them again. Because if you play them the second time, what can you teach your kids technically and tactically to attack that team from a different perspective? Or if you got beat, what are you going to do to win the next match?
Well, and
so realistically, keeping it more localized, hopefully will, again, be able to bring more kids into it because the parents don't see that travel cost as a real hurdle.
Well, and Nerd Paul, when you first started talking, I thought, actually, if I've got Georgia and South Carolina and they're playing in Tampa, your coaches, your team managers are limited by their own networks, right? Like, oh, I know this person, so we'll schedule a friendly, and we'll drive the hour to South Carolina to have that game, right? But it's limited by the network, and you've got a different association in Georgia that you do in South Carolina. So the fact that they probably don't even know about each other, even though the teams have huge parity, equal talent, equal training, equal coaching, all of those things, there's an opportunity for your organization to connect those people together. And that's, I think, to me, when you said that, I was like, that's absolutely right.
And that's, and again, the reimagination of our events, and I said, I talked to our staff to look in the mirror. What would we do differently? Well, let's take a look at our national championships, the President's Cup. Let's look at everything we're doing, and can we make it better? Can we enhance what we have for tomorrow's players today? And if we can, then we can truly emerge from this pandemic stronger and not miss a beat once we get going. Change, and I've learned this over the years, change is an allergen, and everybody reacts differently to it. And what we don't want to see is having to do the same thing because it's the way we've always done it, or people are potentially going to vote themselves off the island because suddenly we're doing something different. And that's where you have to come in and say, is this really for the good of the game, the good of the players, the good of our bank account, or what are we doing?
I love it's the whole idea of the traveling and whatnot, and again, as I've seen, is hugely appealing to some of the parents, and huge. My kid made the travel team. I mean, whenever there is and I'd like to understand American youth soccer because, there's two models here. There's the and because another quote you said, which I thought was so great, is so much focus is on the top 10 to 15% of the pyramid. I ask, and this is you, are we doing everything we can to ensure the base of the pyramid is not just as strong as it can be, but continue to grow and expand? And again, you've been talking a lot about that, and I think that's I could not agree more. So you have the little league model, baseball model, which I'm not going to say is better or worse than anything else, but what the little league model, they have their national championship.
Sure.
But it's, and of course, baseball is full of travel teams. I mean, full of the tryout. And again, the parents are as into it as their kid because, before they can say their kid's a Division I athlete, they're saying my kid made the travel team. So, but what Little League I think does well is its national championship is literally, they aren't travel teams. They're a team from this town that actually played in the regular season. Now, there might have been some shenanigans in that town, and my kids all played Little League, and I mean, shenanigans exist, but nevertheless, that's not a travel team per se, though they've traveled. They're that team. Right. How is your approach and again, shame on me, I should know this, but from how your organization runs, are there tiers where there's the local there's the local team, and then there's a level above it that you also organize, that's the travel team, and then maybe even a more elite team? Or when you have your President's Cup and these championships, are they the local team that's advancing through regionals and whatnot? How do you handle that?
Yeah, no, the way, and Grant, that's a great question. Little League does it extremely well. The Little League World Series is just a global.
We watch it. I can't believe I watch it.
I
know.
love
That kid's not 14.
I know. And Westport, Connecticut, Skip, you and I both lived there. I was riding that. There was a kid on that Westport team several years back. I coached his big brother in Little League. Anyway, I don't want to get into
to school with those kids.
It was amazing.
It's an icon. We're pretty much the same way. In other words, the Chattanooga Stars, they could go through, they win their state cup, they advance on, and they could end up at the national championships. So, there is that pathway. And so from that perspective, we're all kind of coming from the same, from the same playbook. You have within the structure, you have your local grassroots teams, and those are the kids that are out having fun. And this is where I start to have the hair on the back of my neck go up, because a lot of times, especially in soccer, people will say they're a rec player, but it's usually preceded by the word just. He's just a rec player. She's just a rec player. And that immediately puts a downturn trajectory for that kid's enthusiasm for the game, because you're telling them that they're not good enough to play on the travel team. And the travel team is still a club team. It's just at a higher level. Right. So again, it's almost depending on, you just want to stay local. If your skills and your technical abilities are getting more and more, advanced, then you're going to go to those club-based elite teams. Right. And then at the very top of that, we have something called our ODP, the Olympic Development Program. And that's where the best kids from the state are pulled together. They're trained, and then they can come together for matches against other ODP state teams. Right. And then they come into an ODP, which we're going to revisit and hopefully bring back, which would be an ODP national championship.
Oh, fun.
So again, best from each state come together, and let's see who really is the top 11.
Well, I'm going to keep you on the spot a little bit, because I want to stay on the Little League for a second, because another thing I like about how Little League handles its tiers is, again, as if with kids in Little League, the town team is made up of the best players of the overall town league. There may be 10 teams, and then they pick their all-stars and they go into the state tournament. You cannot make that all-star team if you don't play in the regular season on a team. In other words, what they're not doing, and again, I think this is important, they're not taking the best kids out of house league play, for want of a better word. They're making them play in the house league so that the level of competition there is so that the kids that aren't as good still get a good quality game experience, and that they're with better players who might motivate them to play better. Again, in your organization, do the elite teams, are they completely separated from the house league, or is it house league and then it's different seasons for these different levels of play?
Yeah, and that's the differentiation is with the Little League. Yes, it's the town team, which is the collection of all the best of the town. Yeah. With our national championship, it's basically, if your kid was in Westport and signed up with Rush Westport, that was their team that they played league ball. And then they may have played in the state cup championships. And if they won state cup, then they continued on the path through and into the national championships. So it's not a collection of all-star teams. It's your club team. It's the team you signed up with and you've kind of practiced with and you've moved on with.
And that team doesn't make cuts per se, or does it?
As you get higher in the spectrum, yes. I mean, they're gonna pull their 20-man roster, and those 20 they're gonna have for pretty much the duration of the season.
Got it.
You might get a guest player or two coming in, or someone gets hurt and they have to bring someone else in. But for the most part, that nucleus of kids that are playing are going to represent that club, in their championship run.
We talked on Friday, and I know, Paul, we have some time issues, and we need to bring in one of the suits to ask some questions. But,
I'm not sure he's going to be able to join us.
Oh, okay. But we talked Friday, and I thought this was an interesting challenge to get back to the COVID in that, as you said, you've got 50 states and 55 state organizations, and you've got 55 different state policies on can you play normally, do you wear a mask? I mean, and you were talking about a letter that you had composed, and when we're bringing other youth organizations in. Talk about the challenge of having 50 different states with 50 different rules and regulations when you're a national organization.
It is a little difficult, to say the least, because in essence, you've got 50 state governments, and within the government, from the governor down to the county commissioners, to the mayors, to all of the different localized politicians, all trying to do the best that they think they know how for their areas to be able to get back to a state of play. The problem is that there's no consistency in how they're activating those policies. So case in point, we have kids in New York City that are out playing, but nobody in New Mexico right now is allowed to play.
Right.
And so you sit back and go, how, knowing what went through New York City,
Right.
how they converted the Arthur Ashe Tennis Center into a makeshift hospital. You had barges floating down the East River waiting for, hospital beds to be filled. And, what they went through, yet their kids are playing, and New Mexico, which doesn't have the same level as a New York City, is not. And it's not saying New Mexico is wrong. They're probably doing absolutely, what's in their thoughts is the best interest, but there's no consistency. What's the metrics that they're using? Is it based on the number of a percentage of COVID positive tests per population density? Right. Is it over the last week? How many have tested positive? Is it an upward swing, a downward slope? What's really the benchmark to allow your population to get back to somewhat semblance of normal? And then what does normal look like? Right. Again, up in New England, you look at Vermont, they're playing not just in soccer, but across sports, they have to wear a mask, whether they're practicing or in their competition. New Hampshire, live free and die, they're playing with no restrictions, but they can't play in Maine. So that's a fairly small geographic area.
Exactly.
And so what we're doing with this letter, and we're joined by a number of the National Olympic governing bodies, is to simply say we need consistency throughout the country. Give us a seat at the table to help bring that consistency together, so that no matter what you're doing as a politician, if you say my kids in my state can't play, here's why, we're going to back you up 100%. Because there is not an organization that has been empowered by Congress, and many of us have been, want kids to be out there, want their families to be out there, and put themselves in danger that they could attract the disease. We know it's going to happen. Unless you're sitting in your home and you don't leave, there's no way anybody can guarantee you're not going to be infected.
Right.
But you have to, as society moves forward, you have to be able to come out of your cocoon and be able to start doing things in a productive fashion. And our stance is, let's do it in a very meaningful way so that we can minimize the risk and that we can maximize the comfort level of the parents to say, you know what, we need our kids to play in sports. We need them to get out there, from a health, wellness, mental health perspective, and be able to do the things that they want to do. And we want to do it in a very controlled, very focused, and a very direct fashion.
Right. Yeah, no, well, and Paul, you touched on it earlier, talking about, the importance of for kids learning, what sports teaches you as a person. And, I think we'd all would agree that it, having seen in our own kids, that is a very valid I mean, it's true. They do learn that, and losing. So when they're not playing the game, they're not just, it's not just losing that opportunity to play a sport I love, but it's losing an opportunity that they won't get back to learn certain life lessons at a certain age that they can then build upon.
I mean, I think you're getting at just the whole, this pandemic thing sucks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, there are going to be things that we're going to miss out on, that our kids are going to miss out on. This is what our normal is. We want to, Skip, you said we want to get back to normal, or a semblance of what normal was. And I think that's the challenge. That's what we're charged with, right? How do we put the things in place to limit risk while maximize value, right? And so, I mean, we talked about it in our pre-call, right? Like, I have my kids schooling at home, but they are participating in cross country. They are participating in soccer. They are doing the things that we believe bring those overall values to their life so that they can continue to develop in that ideal form. And, to your point as well, Skip, I think part of this as a parent, it's caused me to ask a little bit, what does ideal mean? Right? What is ideal? Is ideal to be on that travel team, right? Does that help build their character? Is that or is that driving them toward a goal that they'll never hit? How many students actually do make it to D1 schools, right? Or is this so would they have the same experience by playing local teams in rec or local travel? Like, again, I don't know. I just feel like, to your point, Chris, this pandemic thing sucks.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that.
It's interesting to that point, as we look forward, and you say, will parents say that their kids shouldn't be on the travel team? And that goes back to, why are kids playing to begin with? And to me, it's got to be from the kid themselves.
Right.
I mean, I was at a Fairfield County cocktail party a couple of years ago, and a mom came up to me who had found out my playing background and asked me to look at her son, who was 8 years old, running across the lawn, and say, will he be a professional soccer player?
You think he's got a shot?
And
yeah, I mean, sure, totally does.
To me, the reason you play on those elite teams is because the boy or the girl absolutely loves the sport. They're passionate about it. They're committed to it. They want to see how far will this take them. And that should be on them. It shouldn't be the parents saying, I want you to be playing here and I want you to do that. It's got to be from the kid. And if they have the heart, if they have that commitment, open it up and let them go as far as they can go.
But that's so hard, because I'm just thinking about it from a parent's perspective, right? Like, we go to the grocery store, the market, and, hey, little Johnny, he's thinking about doing travel soccer. What about your kids, Paul? Are they going to do travel? I mean, maybe. I feel like is that what a good parent does? Because if so, they're going to, because I'm a good parent, right?
The hardest lesson for any parent, and this goes in the grocery store, talking to other parents, or driving their kid home after a game, the toughest lesson a parent can learn is when not to speak.
Right.
Yep.
That is the hardest. And most parents fail at that.
I fail at it daily. I'm really good at talking.
Well, we could go on. This has been, I mean, we could talk hours on this, and but we need to be respectful of your time, Skip. So what I want to do is, we have something we call the lightning round, where we end every one of our shows. And then the lightning round, I ask you, I toss out 5 words, one at a time, and you give us the first thing that comes to your mind. It can be just one word answer. It can be a sentence, not a dissertation, just whatever comes to your mind.
You got it.
And we use it to psychologically analyze you.
And we're going to return the results back to your HR department
endlessly for weeks. Producer David will be talking. Remember when he said, or
Yeah.
she said?
Yeah.
But sometimes we'll talk about it here on the show. So anyway, I want to get started on the lightning round now. If you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. This is the, I'm going to say this is the soccer or European football version of the lightning round.
That's what the kids are
Okay,
calling
first
it.
word is pitch.
I thought you were going to say pitch.
Field.
All right. Second word, kit.
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 Sheffield United.
Oh, well, we're going to come back to that one
Yeah,
for sure.
I would have gone a totally different direction.
I was looking a totally different direction. Number 3, Madrid.
Madrid. That's a good, top quality, great players.
Okay. Number 4, oranges.
I go right to the Netherlands and Holland.
Interesting. Again, not what I was expecting. And number 5, beer.
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 World
Beer.
Cup victory.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
I like that one.
So Paul, what were you thinking? What were you looking for on kit?
Knight Rider, David Hasselhoff, any of those things are fine.
No, it's I love the word kit because soccer players use it. It's like get your kit. It's like your equipment. It's like your, it's not get your uniform. It's get, or get your baseball bag. It's no, get your kit. So,
But you
that's what I was
thought
looking
nothing
for.
about Knight Rider there, Chris.
No, nothing about Knight Rider. Oranges. I was looking for the perfect halftime
The
snack
halftime
for
snack.
soccer players.
Oh, yeah.
But
Who brought the
but you know
oranges?
what? In this world of pandemic, parents can't bring those snacks anymore.
Oh,
Oranges are on hold. So because of that, I went professional. I went World Cup.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the entire state of Florida is rejecting that. I
Well,
thought that's where because
and
Tampa
and
Bay
for beer-
Rowdies, I figured there was some connection to oranges there.
could have been.
but I get the orange color
Green and gold.
Okay.
Dutch team. I get that. And if Jordy were on, he's our Dutch friend. He would have applauded that answer. Beer, I was saying the perfect morning beverage when you're watching Premier Cup live because
Right.
those games typically air in the U.S. in the morning, and there's very few times that beer drinking before noon is appropriate. 1, college game day.
Yep.
2, if you're fishing, or 3, if you're watching Premier League in the pub. So
True. Although here I sit overseeing 2.8 million kids that none of them can have a beer. I had to go in a much different direction.
that's true. That's true. We applaud your discretion
Right.
in that answer. Well, that I think wraps up the program for this week. Skip, fascinating discussion. Again,
Absolutely
I think we could have
fantastic.
gone on another hour. Really enjoyed your insights, your perspectives. Hope we didn't get you in trouble with the local associations, but
Right.
I know you're a tough guy and can handle that. Paul, any last thoughts?
No, again, thanks for your transparency on the whole thing. I do think the world of what you're doing for my kids personally and for kids around the world. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for your leadership there. And thanks for sharing what you're doing so that, our listeners, our watchers can get a glimpse into it.
Yeah, USA Soccer is lucky to have you. It's in good hands, and if your kids are in USA Soccer, now you know the guy behind it has his heart in the right place. So,
Yep.
Skip, thanks a lot, and maybe we'll catch up again down the road when you're actually playing and get an update on the Presidential Cup series.
Perfect. Well, Chris, Paul, great to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and enjoy the rest of your coffee.
Thank you, sir.
right, thanks.
Take care.
Bye. Have a great
All
show,
right,
everyone.
here we are in the after show with fan favorite producer David Inman.
I don't see
know
him
about you,
though,
Paul.
Chris.
I don't know about you, but that I could have gone on for a lot longer with Skip. I thought that was a fascinating
Man,
episode.
Yeah, and honestly, I had like a million more questions. I want to
Yeah.
book him as a guest again, just so I can ask those. Is that wrong, Chris?
No.
That selfishly, hey, so when
Well, you know what? What I want to ask him, and I don't know if you noted this, but he talked about when he ran the USTA and standing there courtside. And all I could think about, after I heard USTA courtside,
right,
I wasn't listening any longer. All I was thinking was, where were my tickets? Where
right.
were my tickets?
All I could think about was Michael Chang, and
I was like, Skip, where were my tickets? Why didn't I get the look? How could I
Right.
not get tickets?
the head nod. Now, did
because
you
Skip and I
know him
folks go-
previously?
Yeah, Skip and I go way back, and
Got it.
so he could have given me tickets if he'd wanted to, but apparently,
Oh.
that wasn't on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, awkward. Okay.
He did give me a framed picture of Comiskey, the original Comiskey, right after the White Sox tore it down and built the stadium they have today. And so for those of you who are playing along at home know Comiskey was torn down a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I still have that framed picture, and it's going up in the bunk room in our new house in Alabama. It made the move down in Alabama. It will be going up. So Skip, still have it. Love it. Thanks for that. Anyway, the excitement's been building, I'm sure, at home because everybody can see producer David's frame. But, for those of you watching this, but we don't see producer David yet. What
is going on?
What will his background be today? Any guesses?
It's like technology-based hide and seek. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's you never know. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Oh goodness, yes. Let's see. What have we been doing this week? I think
He was vacationing in Florida.
yeah, beach. Beach is a possibility. Yeah, I'm going with beach.
I'm gonna have to go with beach too.
But I think it's going to be parasailing. He's going to be aloft in a parasail.
No,
behind
I
a
think he's going to
speedboat.
be on one of those water skiing pyramids,
Oh yeah.
and he's going to be like the top skier.
Okay. Well,
All right,
the
producer
big
David,
reveal. The big reveal. Wait, cue the fireworks. Too soon.
Come on.
Guys, I hate to disappoint. You guys think I'm way more creative than I am, but I don't actually have a special background today. I just have my backyard. I'm just sitting on my back porch right now, enjoying the nice weather on my 1,000-acre plot here in downtown Chattanooga.
Yeah. That's gorgeous.
Well, you know what? You really took that 40 acres and a mule thing seriously. I can see because
Right.
you got that looks like some good bottom land. So well done.
Did you by chance go parasailing on your beach vacation?
I didn't. It was an option, but we never got around to it. Kind of the only thing on our to-do list for this vacation was to do nothing, and we did accomplish that. We exceeded those expectations. It was nice.
Got it.
So David was down in Miramar, Florida, exclusive Miramar, Florida, with his girlfriend and his 2 dachshunds. Apparently, his dachshunds, like my dachshund Newman, like the water. And so, do they go swimming or just prance around in the waves?
It's a little bit of both. They have their ritual. They just kind of get excited and don't know what to do, but it's obvious that they're comfortable swimming. It's very odd to see, but they love it.
Dachshunds are like otters. They have little otter legs.
Yeah.
And and they can steer with that tail. It's.
I've seen videos of your little dog swimming.
Yes, you have.
Makes me.
I don't think we've seen any of producer David's dogs swimming.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to have any holiday videos or anything.
Yeah, if you didn't get those, could you head back down to Miramar and?
Yeah, take some vids. Sure, I did take a few pictures while I was down there that I can show you guys if you like. Just a handful of them.
I think I'd like to see that.
Sure. I mean, I apologize to our listeners, Trey Peden. I know. Trey McIntyre.
We'll describe what we're seeing. It'll be fun.
Yeah, Trey. For you, we'll do. Trey is one of our big fans, folks. Trey McIntyre, and he always berates us.
Trey, yeah.
He berates us when we show and don't tell. So.
Oh, look at that! That beach
We're looking
scene.
The more you laugh, the better you live. I'm assuming that was in your condo on the wall.
It was. Big fan of that one. Words to live by, you know?
What a great picture. It's really wise you took a picture of that picture.
Thank you.
Oh, two pictures. I love the way it's a little bit askew. You know, it's not.
Right.
You know, it's not.
Oh, that's nice too.
Wait, yeah, no, wait, yeah.
Yeah, Coast.
Oh, Trey, this is a picture of a
Picture.
starfish.
Well, it's a
or
picture of a
painting.
picture of a starfish, Chris, to be specific.
It's a painting with the word coast
Yeah.
because, in case you're not sure where you are, you're on the coast.
Oh, that's nice too.
Thank you.
We have a shell. What kind of crustacean is that, Producer David?
An oceanic one. Saltwater.
Oceanic. Okay, good. It's not a crawfish. In fact, it looks like a nautilus. If you ask me.
I would have said
but,
nautilus too.
Oh yeah, you couldn't come up with that.
Yeah.
Memories made at the beach last a lifetime. These are some of the best holiday photos, frankly, I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, life is better in Flint. I mean, the luxurious. I mean, this condo has to be the most luxurious one I've ever seen. It has got more things on the wall than most houses have.
Yeah.
I mean, well decorated.
Love
the
beach.
beach.
This is nice.
More ocean waves.
And then another nautilus.
Ocean waves, yeah. Again, askew. The
Snail?
painting's a little bit askew.
Sea snail, maybe. A
No,
seahorse.
it's a nautilus, a seahorse. Oh,
They had a lot of pictures up in this condo. Sandy toes and salty kisses.
The next one is my favorite, and it's the final one. I think you guys will enjoy this one.
okay.
Oh,
Rope sign. The word beach fabricated out of rope.
Big fan.
these
am
are
without-
solid vacation pictures.
Thank you.
I'm getting a lot of good ideas for decoration tips for the place
Yeah.
we bought in Alabama.
Well, Chris, I'm gonna use this opportunity to sell. My daughter said, "Hey, if I made signs that sort of appeal to email marketers, like this one that says coffee, and instead of an O, it's an envelope. Would you sell it on your show?" And I said, "Oh well, I'll try." So this one is for sale for money and shipping, but if you're interested, so we've got this one available. We
Love
also
it.
have this one here, which is it's on tile. Actually, this is on marble. Very nice. It looks like a coffee cup and steam rising off of it. So both of those are for sale for money.
I actually thought that last one was a radish.
Yeah, it is a radish if that's what you want, and it's for sale for money, Chris. So if you were thinking you'd like a
radish.
picture of a radish, that's for sale for money. That's all I got.
Tremendous artistic talent.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great. We've seen Paul's condo pictures, best holiday pictures ever. We've seen some great artwork from your daughter, and I
And we
love
talked
the
about
envelope.
Comiskey Park painting picture.
We talked about Comiskey. We talked about my crushing disappointment at not getting the look for the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're now we're halfway through season 3 already.
I know, it's amazing, and I've been excited about the theme, the builders theme. I think that's been really a good one. We've had some really fantastic guests on that. It's been fun to sort of get a glimpse into what they're doing. Everything from how we plan a television show to again building a youth soccer organization. So I think it's been a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, I really and we've got a bunch of guests lined up for the rest of the season. We hope you'll like every other episode as much as you've liked what you've seen so far. And if you do like what you've seen so far, what should they do, Paul?
They should like and subscribe. They should comment. They should email. They should tell their friends, Chris. They should tweet. They should Facegram. They should Insta post. They should TikTok it. Everyone in the world. Yes. Everyone should know how much they like this show.
Yes. And we appreciate your continued support. We thank you. We wouldn't be here if you weren't there. So
yep.
Until next week, remember, Kittens are baby cats.
Kittens are baby cats. Thanks, Chris.
Goodbye.